This is the Jeff Jerina Show.
Hey, what's going on? It's Jeff here, and welcome back to the show. And if this is your first time tuning in, episodes like today's podcast are what we call our daily fuel episodes. And these are really just short episodes designed to give you a quick boost of inspiration, motivation, and wisdom to help you ignite and level up in some area of your life. And so before we jump into today's episode, I want to give you a heads up that if you're in sales, maybe you own a business, or you're an entrepreneur, or maybe you're a faith-driven creator and you want to succeed without compromising your faith, then check out my free guide. It's called The Success Blueprint, 10 Daily Habits for Faith-Driven Achievers. Now, it's packed with biblical habits, practical action steps, and a roadmap to help you grow spiritually and professionally. So all you need to do is go to jeffjerina.com/success blueprint and start building the habits that transform your life today. All right, so today I want to tackle a lie that I've seen wreck a lot of well-meaning Christians. It's one that I hear often from people that I coach, and honestly, it's even from some close friends of mine. Okay, so here it is. Here's the lie. If it's really from God, it will be easy. You ever heard that? You ever thought that? I'll tell you what, I have thought that before, and it's a lie. And in fact, one friend recently told me this. He said, Jeff, I just think if it's God's will, the doors will fly open and things will fall into place. You're not going to have to go looking for business. You won't have to market. You won't have to advertise what you do. Now, this gentleman's a business owner. And, sometimes I think that. Sometimes I feel that as well. But in my experience here in life and speaking to a lot of other business owners, and what I've seen from coaching others is that's really not the case here. Now, it can be the case, but many times, I would say most often, that it's not. And so another coaching client of mine, one of the first things he said to me when I started coaching him in his business, he said that maybe he missed it because starting his business has just been too hard. And I get it because in many ways, we've been conditioned or led to believe that if something is from God, we're going to feel peaceful, right? It's going to be effortless. Everything's going to just work out. It's just going to flow smoothly. But peace doesn't always mean easy, right? And in fact, when I look at Scripture, I don't see the promise of everything working out just right without any obstacles or difficulties or struggles promised with working or in starting a new venture, right? Starting something out or in running a business. I see God forging champions through resistance, not comfort. And so let me just give you a truth from Scripture here. I just want to get real here. Most of the people that God called in the Bible faced major resistance, right? I'm talking about big time resistance. There's a lot of difficulties. Think about Noah here. Noah was given a once in a lifetime assignment by God, right? To build an ark in the middle of dry land. He was mocked, he was misunderstood, and he had to wait years before a single drop of rain. Now imagine that for a second. He was called to build something huge by hand when everyone else around him was calling him crazy. Like, what are you doing, man? There's no rain. We haven't seen rain for years. What are you thinking, dude? And let's just think like Noah here. What if you were Noah and you were in that situation? I would be thinking that day after day here, that doubt would be creeping in here. It would be whispering something like, is this really worth it? Did I hear God right on this? Is this what I'm supposed to do? But yet, Noah kept going. He kept going because God told him to keep going. And then Moses, he was clearly called, but he faced a hard-hearted Pharaoh, right? Grumbling people and years in the wilderness. And David, he was anointed as king, but he was hunted like a criminal by King Saul. And then Paul, he had this divine calling, but he was shipwrecked, he was stoned, he was imprisoned, and rejected. But yet he kept sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ. He didn't waver. And then Jesus Christ himself, who walked in perfect obedience, he was betrayed and he crucified. Now, he did that for us. And so the way that I see it is that obedience to God is not a guarantee of comfort. I wish that wasn't the case. And quite honestly, it's often a guarantee of challenge. And in fact, the very act of saying yes to God tends to put you on a collision course with resistance, right? Now, why is that? Because now you're stepping out of the predictable and into the supernatural. You're stepping into this place that you know nothing about. You don't know the outcome. You can't see that yet. But you have to trust. You have to have faith. But see, what's going on there is you're moving against the grain of culture, against comfort, your own comfort, and sometimes even your own natural way of thinking and desires. And let's be honest here. I want to be real here. A lot of times you're going against the aspirations, the thoughts, the desires, the expectations of those who love you the most, your friends and your family. So as we look through Scripture, obedience almost always leads to difficulty before it leads to what? Destiny. So let's think about Abraham here. He left everything familiar. And then Joseph was thrown into a pit. Daniel faced the lions. Esther risked her life, not because they were disobedient or because they wanted something easy. They didn't want the easy way out, but because they were faithful. So right now, if you're facing a challenge because you said yes to God and you said yes to the purpose and the calling that God has called you to, I just want to encourage you here to take heart, because you're likely right where you're supposed to be. Now, it may not feel like it, but if you just keep pushing forward, you keep praying, you keep having that faith, that hope, I think you're going to see here that you're right where you're supposed to be. So let me give you a practical real-life example here, and it's actually from my own life. And I'm going to go back here about 25 years ago, and it's when I launched one of my businesses years ago. It was actually my Christmas lighting business, and this was a new venture for me. It's something I never did before. I knew nothing about Christmas lighting, but I knew that God was calling me to do this, and I had really no other choice but to try it. I couldn't find a job at the time. And I just, after talking with a lot of people, there was confirmation that was there. I kept praying about it. You really spoke with a lot of people, a lot of wise people, much wiser than me, and they agreed, yes, you need to give this a try. But I'll be honest with you, in the beginning, it felt like I was pushing a boulder uphill. There was delays, there was discouragement, there was frustration, there was doubt, there was confusion because I didn't know how to do this. And still today, every time I hit a wall, that lie whispered to me back then starts to speak up today. I started thinking, maybe this isn't God after all. Every day is supposed to be easy. But here's what I realized, and something I keep telling myself. Hard doesn't mean wrong. Resistance doesn't mean retreat. And a delay doesn't mean denial. Because for me, when I keep pushing through this business and my web design and digital marketing business, every time I hit a wall or rough patch, I pray, I persevere, and I push through and I think of new ways of doing things, making it easier and creating other ways to learn, to bless others, and grow my business. Whether that's through my coaching, online training courses I offer, or it's the books I write, YouTube channel, whatever. All right, so let me give you another illustration here. Think about the gym. When you go there to work out, the way your muscles grow is through resistance, right? You have to lift more weight, do more reps. You have to have some kind of resistance to strengthen your muscles, to have them actually get more toned, more fit, stronger, bigger, whatever your goal is. Because without resistance, you'll have no growth. It's the same in faith, right? God often lets the pressure build, not to crush you, but to strengthen you. And so if you're doing something you believe God's called you to do, and it's hard, it's difficult, I want to encourage you to not quit. Don't give up. Don't buy the lie that God only works through ease. In fact, God is often most present in the pressure. And so Philippians 1:6 says this. It says, "He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion." Now, it doesn't say it's going to be quick or easy, but it will be completed. What I want you to take away today is this. Just because it's difficult doesn't mean that God isn't there. And if He called you, He'll equip you. Just don't confuse struggle with failure. And some of the strongest callings come with the greatest resistance. So keep showing up, keep trusting, and keep building, because God's power often shows up after you push through. And hey, quick reminder here to check out my free guide, The Success Blueprint, 10 Daily Habits for Faith-Driven Achievers. It's packed with biblical truths, practical action steps, and a roadmap to help you grow spiritually and professionally. So all you have to do to download that now is go to jeffjerina.com/success blueprint and start building the habits that transform your life today. You've got this. See you later. God bless.